Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's been said before that when you are truly authentic, being your authentic self, life is perfect. Well, maybe not perfect. Maybe that's not the best word. What is perfect? But it's the way it should be. You feel connected. You just feel like this is the way it's supposed to be. How can we be authentic? Many of us not really living our true self. We sometimes put on a facade in this one situation. We act a certain way in this situation. How do we be authentic? We're going to talk about that today. She is an amazing psychologist, has written some fantastic books, and has so much insight, and does sessions with couples, individuals to try and figure this and many other things out. Dr. Ann Creekmore joins us once again on the program. How are you today?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Terrific, terrific. And
Great.
in my journey, I wondered how to be authentic. And even somebody said early on, this authentic word, seeking authentic relationships. And you kind of know what it is, being real. I guess that's the best description of what authentic is. And now, a number of years later, I look at life and I find that I am way more closer to my authentic self. Am I truly 100% where I want to be? Going to be honest. No. And that's due to situations around me and how to navigate those situations. But I'm close. I feel I'm very close. But I'm not really, that's my visual of it. But how does somebody know that they truly are living their authentic self?
Well, I think you made a good point that you come to that. You work on yourself, and then you can feel whether or not you're really expressing your true self. And your mission. And you just, that you feel good, that you are being you, that you're able to express yourself and fulfill yourself. And what would you say, what has been your process to get there, and how you kind of know what you said you kind of feel now you're more your authentic self?
Tough question. Good one, though.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I would say when you figure out why you do what you do based on your past, and that includes to a large degree your childhood. And we've talked about that before, how what you went through in your childhood. Now, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's just that's the way you internalize things, life in general, that charts the course for the future. So you act a certain way. Once you figure out why you're acting in those ways, and you push those away, or you work on them, you're being more of who you are. You're being more to the core of who you are. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Where you kind of strip those layers of conditioning, if you will, or what you've absorbed from your childhood environment, your decisions you had to make to adapt then, or the people you identified with and copied, and when you start to let that go to be more your true authentic self, who you really are in your mind, body, spirit, and what is your real talents, your real desires, your real mission. And you kind of strip that away, the others, through therapy or through personal growth or through insight contemplation, you get those kind of out of the way so you can be you.
Yeah, exactly. You are you. You can't take that away. Friend of mine wrote a song years ago, and I never forgot the lyrics. The core myself is still the same, but there's a few more cracks there in my shell. And that's life. You are you. You can't take you away. There's other factors around you, and You have a shell of the core of you. And, I see that, we go through stuff. And as we go through stuff in life, it's going to a little crack here, a little crack here, but you're still the same. But once you figure out why you act a certain way around certain people, relationships, even relationship with yourself, once you figure that out, you're seeing yourself for who you really are. It's almost as if you're able to, the magnifying glass is all the way out here when you're dealing with all that other stuff, and now you brought it in closer because you can. There's less stuff in the way, and now you're seeing you for who you really are, your authentic self.
Exactly. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, or it might even be something that you'd be interested in doing. Have you heard of Landmark Education or the Landmark Forum?
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's basically a personal growth seminars, workshops, and they have actually boiled it down to 19, what they call 19 distinctions, which are like decisions you make, that people would generally make at certain ages, like, do I belong, or where do I belong, or, different kind of subconscious beliefs. And they help you through the workshops to actually do exactly what you're talking about, which of course we can all do through contemplation, through psychotherapy, hypnosis, and so on. But they have a very structured format where the original seminar you attend, they go through and they say, these are the 19 distinctions, the 19 kind of hardwiring, automatic defaults that you have in your system. And they give you like some questions and have you go back to certain time frames and memories and decisions you made. So you kind of contemplate, you can, introspect, and maybe you do it with a partner, where you can share and you can identify your what's been hardwired, you've been conditioned, and kind of make conscious all your subconscious beliefs and decisions. So then once you made those decisions, you can say, well, does that really fit with me? Does that really, is that just something that I absorbed and I'm just automatically following? Or is it, who my true self? And you can strip it away. So it's kind of a neat little, 3-day workshop where you can kind of do that in a quick succession to understand all that. And you've probably gotten all that a lot through different sources, but there may be something you missed.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And let's look at some of those things that can help us get closer to our authentic self. For example, self-care. One might not even realize that is going to make an impact on being who you really truly are. How does that even work?
So can you tell me a little more what you mean? What you're asking?
Focusing on yourself, i.e. self-care, can help you be more connected to being your authentic self. I'm asking, how does that work? How does that help you be there?
Absolutely. Well, in chapter 8 in my book, The Whole Fulfilled Person, kind of a recovery model to get away from just being focused on the external, the importance that society's things we have to do. We also need to take care of our needs, our mind, body, spirit, or, which would include things like our mental talent, intellectual expression, our social belonging with what group, our spiritual, belief in something, faith, or filling a purpose, and so on, our emotional. When we attend to those areas and realize that we have a right to have our needs to be fulfilled, we have certain rights to be fulfilled. And then we start putting our energy and our time into doing so. Then the first step, of course, would be to try to discover, well, what is it that would make me fulfilled? Like if you mentioned, I think, the healthcare of the physical, you'd have to say, well, look, what do I need physically? Well, I need to get enough sleep. I need to, feel rested. I need to feel alert. So that would involve getting proper sleep. I need to feel good in my body. I don't need to feel pain. I don't need to have some sort of health issue bringing me down. That would involve, well, how do I get this pain management or have this pain go away, or this health issue go away? And then, like things like getting proper exercise, stretching, raising your endorphins, your natural painkillers through exercise, or raising your serotonin. This all fits in with your emotional well-being. So it would be looking at each of those areas and saying, well, this is the goal. And in my book, it's got the kind of the picture of, like, in each area, what would be the fulfilled person. And then it's got kind of the description, when you feel unfulfilled, like, like I mentioned, just with the physical would be like, well, you're not healthy, you're not feeling good, you're,
Sure.
So on, or you're not able to focus because you didn't sleep. Those would be basic things that you would want to put your time and energy into during the course of each week in a well-rounded way to those areas. But first, you'd start with discovering, like, well, what is it I need in each of those areas? What would express me and be at my highest self, my best self, my happy, fulfilled self? And then you start to figure a schedule to include have appointments for yourself. And, it doesn't mean an appointment with an external person, but just like, oh, okay, I'm going to get regular 3 to 4 times a week exercise, or I'm going to work it out and figure out how I get 8 hours sleep at night. That kind of thing, and start putting yourself on your schedule, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day, like you've got 3 if you're retired, maybe. But 2 hours a day where you really attend to fulfilling yourself in those areas. And that's also meaning you're expressing your authentic self and raising yourself to your authentic level.
Yep. It's so true. When you get a little bit closer to realizing what you need, and so many of us feel guilty for even thinking that, my needs. What are your needs? Well, hypothetical here. I need to work out more. I don't feel good about my body. All right. Put that on your list. Write that down. What are your commitments? What are you committing to? Working out 4 times a week for 1 hour at a time. Okay. And then try and achieve those goals. It's always good to have somebody to work with you on that. Maybe somebody like yourself who has that accountability.
Right.
But, past that, proper sleep and all of that makes such a difference once you realize what's going on there. Because I feel a lot of us run ragged, like we're just going through life, just like doing this and doing that, but we haven't really taken stock of what we have to offer, what we need to offer the best version of ourselves. Once you start, I guess it even comes down to just make a list. Just sit with yourself for a little while and just make a list of what you need. What do I need in my life? What's going to make me happy? Maybe columns, personal relationships, right?
Exactly. And think about maybe what are the top 4 priorities you have, what that you really are important to you for your fulfillment. And kind of focus in on them, because you can't do everything. Some of this involves setting boundaries where, you have to look at what you want, your priorities are. And then sometimes you'll have to set boundaries and not be able to do everything right then. Maybe that, later, or you work towards that. But you kind of focus in on what is really important to you and have to maybe say no and, kind of earmark that time on your schedule for what you've written for yourself.
It's the boundaries are so important. And I'm still working to master that. And my latest, I call it revelation, that I need is no negativity. Yes, life is negative. It can be. I got it. But when somebody is negative around me, I run. And this is only in the last couple of months. I'm out the other way. I don't want to deal with it. I don't need to deal with it unless it's a situation that I need to help somebody with. But just general negativity, it's just like, no. I can just feel like there's a chain on me, like just pulling me down of just, and it doesn't even have to be somebody verbalizing negativity. It's just acting negative, like somebody showing up late. Respect for somebody else's time is key. In my world, that's, yeah, that's me. And that's
Right.
maybe those are my values. Maybe those are my standards, but I'm now holding more true to them. I'm offended if somebody shows up very late. Like, really? Like, that's okay. No, it's not. No, it's
Right.
not.
Right. And then you can even, just to kind of put an iMessage out of what, how that affects you and how you feel and make a request, I mean, at least that person can text you and let you know if you're going to be late, because then you could just do something else, because you only have a certain amount of time, and energy every day, and
Right.
you want to be using it wisely.
Exactly. And life is short. And great point you bring up is letting others know about it. It's one thing if you feel a certain way, but they need to know, and that's the boundary. You're setting the boundary, the late thing.
Right.
Listen,
Right.
appreciate hanging out with you. You can't show up that late, and the excuses have worn thin. I'm sorry. An hour late, not going to work. Or just don't show
Right.
up, or we're not going to get together. That's it. Nothing,
Right.
nothing negative. That's my boundary. And I'm giving an example, but you got
Oh,
to let others know.
that's a perfect example. Yeah. And so
Hmm.
it is important to, take care of yourself and be able to express, and it's fair to say to the person, then they know, hey, if you run an hour late, I may already have left, or I'll be busy, I'll be doing something else.
Right.
So just kind of know that's how I work, let them know who you are. And then it's their option to do, to listen and follow through. Can't get your way on everything in a relationship. You have to listen, give and take.
100%. What are some of the other things that we should be mindful of if we want to truly feel authentic?
Well, do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share on that, of what you think or what you've come to?
Uh, I think it's a mindset. I think you need to have a certain mindset if you want to be authentic. And I believe writing it down and taking stock. I could sit here and write things down. This is how I'm authentic. Maybe I'm not so much based on these situations, but I do see certain things when you are closer to being authentic, things don't bother you like they used to.
Mm-hmm. Because
Where,
you're feeling content, you're feeling fulfilled, you're not
right,
tense and upset and unfulfilled,
yeah,
so things happen in life, but you basically caring for yourself, you're there for yourself, and it's all good, stay in the present.
exactly. Like, for example, let's say somebody somebody can set you off. Say, they could send you a text or whatever. And in the past, you'd be like, "Oh, really? And you get on your phone, you text them back. When you're your authentic self, it doesn't bother you because you're being you. It's like, whatever, that's you. This is me. Whatever you got to say, I don't really care. It's, and I'm just giving up.
Not take it personally, don't let it trigger you, or if it triggers you, see what that is. Maybe there's something else inside to remove. Another distinction, as the landmark education would call it, another subconscious belief that or trauma or whatever that you are still need to heal. You can use it as a positive, not to talk with them about it per se, but just to work, well, what is that triggering? What do I need to release there to
For
get
sure.
to love, peace, and forgiveness? Heal another layer.
Was there a moment in your life where you started realizing that, oh, I'm being very authentic with myself now?
Hmm. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you say, we all kind of grow into that. Hopefully, if we're working on ourselves,
Hmm.
um, you know, we start out with who we are, and our talents and our interests and our path, our mission, and things can get us off track. But the more we keep working on ourselves internally, the more we get there to who we are. Um, I can't really say that. I can say that I look back and the things that I do now, I would feel like I've gotten to a place of being authentic and doing to a large extent, not, completely, but, but, there, I could see looking back the possibilities and the potential that I wasn't realizing and that now I am realizing more. And I mean, like one of the things I think is just for me to be able to share with people, have influence, help people at a larger scale than just my practice, and my people that I interacted with every day, my family and friends and so on. But now I'm doing even more, kind of a mission to reach out and help more. So that feels more authentic.
Mm. As you were saying that, I got a download, if you will, of thinking even deeper about this, that you're closer to being authentic when you have more self-worth. And it's like when you even look at others, like the example when somebody texts you and that used to trigger you, whatever. And you don't reply back. It's like that. This is, I don't want to sound egotistical, but it's almost gets to a point where it's like, you're better than that. I don't need to reply to that. I don't need that negativity. I've reached a certain level that doesn't support me, and just move on.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I remember the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? I think Joe Dispenza's been out a lot and doing these really interesting podcasts, and I think he was involved in that movie. But they showed how, since we are made 70% at least of water, and water, they've shown through scientific research, can be affected, to get muddy in a sense, or the crystallized in negative ways from negative, around us, the negative thought, projected talk to it, that we can think about our own bodies. Do we need to be, we absorb this, there's energy getting transferred, quantum physics. And do we need to have negativity coming at us? Because that is going to affect us. And we have a right sometimes to kind of set a boundary and not expose ourselves to toxicity. Sometimes we feel guilty, like we should, like obligation. That's kind of the other side of addiction, where, not addicted to a substance or some kind of negative unhealthy thing for ourselves, but we also can be addicted to being codependent or obligated. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do is kind of ask ourselves, do we really have any need to feel guilty for saying no to someone or not really responding? You ask two questions. One, did I give my word? Am I breaking a promise? I mean, if the person is being negative to you, did you make some promise that you're going to take, negativity and listen to all their criticisms of you all the time? No, you never made a promise to do that. Are you going against your value system? Is the other question, like, to evaluate whether it's good guilt or bad guilt. If you're doing something you think is wrong or unethical or crime, well, yeah, you wouldn't want to do it. But for you just to participate negativity doesn't go against your values. To not participate negativity or toxicity, it goes with your value system, because you want to care for yourself. You want to be caring for yourself. That's you being authentic. Yeah. Yourself. So to say no to participating in negativity is a healthy thing. It doesn't go against your values.
No. And, final thought here, you mentioned energy. So many of us have said in the past that, it's just a waste of time and energy. It is. You have a certain amount of energy in you, and why deplete it on these things that don't truly support you, i.e. negativity or negative people. And great talk. Yeah, it's funny, when we first started talking about this today, we're like, I don't know how long we could talk about being authentic. We're out of time. We already got
right. There. No, we can keep talking.
Sure. And this is just part of your book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life, which I always make. Sometimes I'm like, love your life, love yourself. No, you love yourself, then you love your life.
You'll find it.
How do we find your website? What is it?
It's Psychologist in Virginia, spelled out, Psychologist with a plural, S in Virginia, spelled out.com.
Always wonderful talking with you. Always get a lot of insight, a lot of practical stuff that is so usable. And that's why you're great at what you do. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a great week. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Talk soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.